and the MTA taking action to keep the subways from flooding and keep the bridges safe during this storm.
And joining us from the agency Situation Room is MTA Chairman Janno Lieber with the very latest updates on how everything is going. So good morning to you. Thanks for taking the time this morning. I know it's been very busy.
It has. Hazel, Vanessa, I like the optimism you're conveying this morning. Hey, mass transit this morning is rocking.
Good.
Everything is operating. We had a half a dozen trees down across both subway lines and commuter rail lines. We got the crews out there. Service is operating everywhere. We do have a couple delays, but attributable to equipment, not to the weather. Port Jeff line and the Hudson line have small delays, but otherwise everything is operating. There are a couple of, literally a handful of buses in the boroughs, Staten Island especially, that have slight detours because of flooding conditions. But the bottom line is the MTA, all services are operating. You had it right that we are concerned about the wind impacts, and that's why we continue to have bans on empty tandem trailers, the big trucks on the bridges, which could be impacted by sudden gusts of wind. And the pedestrian walkways on the bridges are closed for obvious reasons. But otherwise, the system is operating. And to your point, we pump a huge amount of water every day, 13 million gallons of water. So the water is not the issue. The things that your viewers have seen a few months ago, for example, are when the torrential rainfall overwhelms the city of New York's storm sewer capacity and it backs up into the subways. So on a day like this where the rainfall is steady and there isn't an overwhelming torrential rainfall, we're in reasonably good shape.
Okay.
Crews really worked hard overnight, and I just want to tip of the hat to those MTA folks who stayed up all night making sure we had a good commute this morning.
Yeah, you've been very proactive. Like you were mentioning, though, the wind is really the big issue right now. You talked about the ban on tractor trailers and tandem trucks on the bridges. How long do you expect that to last?
Listen, obviously we do it based on the forecasts and the conditions themselves, but I think it's through this evening you can assume that ban will remain in effect, because that's when the wind forecast for dying down is expected to take place. So, but we are concerned a little bit about the coastal flooding risk. There is a high tide this afternoon. We'll be watching closely to see, especially whether any of our commuter rail or subway lines that are adjacent to the coast have any impacts, but we're on it.
Yeah, you guys have been super busy preparing for this storm. We saw some video of your crews out there covering the subway grates, trying to stop from the flooding. Did that actually help out?
It always helps. We all learned, 10 years ago from Superstorm Sandy, that when the coast is overwhelmed, it ends up on the sidewalks and it can go down the grates. So close to the coast, we have enormous infrastructure to block water. But torrential rainfall, which is what we saw in the summer, is a different challenge because you never know where it's going to happen. You can't plan for it as much. That's why we need the city to invest in a higher capacity storm sewer system. I will keep talking about that as time goes on.
Are you having any issues, though, with the elevated trains? Because of this wind, too?
Listen, it's a good point, because theoretically wind could be an issue, but so far so good. If you look at the MTA website, mta.info, or on our app, you'll see that the subways are operating without any significant delays. So across the system, we're rocking and rolling.
Good to hear. Let's talk about the bus services. Any disruptions there?
Yeah, I think I mentioned in very scattered route detours, Staten Island, the S40, a couple of other, there's one in Queens, there's one in the Bronx, and it's limited to areas where there's substantial flooding or ponding, and they have to take a detour to get around that. But other than that, the system is operating. If you're a bus rider, I would add a little extra time for your commute this morning, because there are some impacts from all that water being on the ground.
Yeah, and thankfully all of this is happening on a holiday, too.
Yeah. Good fortune.
Yes.
Good fortune.
Janno Lieber, thank you so much for your time. We know it's a busy day. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.